All right. I want to thank everybody for joining the Ed Sullivan Experience. We're going to have a really good show tonight and the next two episodes. I want to introduce my guest tonight, Jeanna Star Jones. And you said, I know we talked earlier, you said to call you Star?
Star,
Right?
yeah. My friends all call me Star.
Okay, great. So I want to thank you for being on the show. Tell the guest tonight a little bit about the show. We're talking about aliens, UFOs, and the paranormal. And maybe by the end of this series, we'll get into Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, stuff like that. But Star has some very, very interesting stories. She told me a little bit, not too much, just enough to tease me a little bit. And so we're going to spend a little bit tonight talking about that. And then we're going to do that live tonight. So the next two segments after this, which is the rest of her story and some other guests I'm going to have on here as well, are not going to be live because I need people to subscribe to my YouTube channel, download the podcast. So if you want to hear the rest of these stories, you're going to have to join in on those for me if you don't mind. So, and we'll send a link on Facebook and everything else. So Star, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you. So, give me a little background history on you and
Me.
what
Okay. Like, I was raised in a real small town, halfway between Chattanooga and Knoxville on Highway 411, which used to be the only road in the 60s. You know, they were building I-75 actually when I was a kid. And so that was the major thoroughfare, you know, that went from Atlanta to Knoxville, Chattanooga, Knoxville. And it was a little one-horse town with two red lights, you know, raised by my grandparents. Had a little farm not far from the highway, but in the country kind of, you know, and country kid being raised by them. No siblings, just me.
right.
Tomboy, always out running in the woods and doing crazy stuff. And went to work and bought myself a motorcycle when I was like 12, being a waitress. And so I love to do that, which was actually part of how this all came about. But that's me.
Are you in Tennessee or?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because so am I.
Yep. I am in Tennessee. I live in Roan Mountain, Tennessee.
Well, we don't tell people we don't want to come visit you.
They never find me.
Okay. So what was your first experience? Was it aliens, UFOs, paranormal? What was?
Well, the first one that I knew for sure, you know, I was older. The one that experience I had when I was older, from there set me on a course of finding out about what had happened in my past. Like I said, it was in 1973. And now listen, I know there's people out there that's going to say, you know, wow, all right. And I understand that if you're not in it, you haven't experienced it yourself, that it can be a very difficult thing to go with. But trust me, I've told many people over the years, I swear on my life, my children's lives, this is really what happened. So in 1973, back then, everybody went to Grandma and Papa's house on Sunday for Sunday dinner.
Okay.
That's just something that country folks in this area did, you know, all over the country, I guess.
Wish they still did that.
Yes, they need to still do that. But so we had company all day, and I had my motorcycle, so I'm the one riding the kids and the cousins and the nieces and the nephews, and, you know, it's a big day. So I'm tired, and everybody left after lunch. We call it dinner.
Right.
But anyway, everybody left, and now my grandparents were fairly old when they took me to raise. So by now, you know, they're in their early, late 70s, you know. and lived a hard life. So everybody was gone. The first thing they wanted to do was just go sit down, you know.
Right.
So my grandmother.
I'm sorry. So this was in Roan Mountain?
No, this was in Inglewood, Tennessee.
Inglewood, okay.
The little one-horse town in between Chattanooga and Knoxville. But, Atlanta and Knoxville, really. So anyways, everybody left, and they went in the living room. My grandmother had a recliner, you know. She sat in. My papa was diehard to his rocking chair, you know. Even I thought many times growing up, it must be so hard because he was bony anyway, but he would not give up his rocking chair.
Right.
And I went in, ironically, not my room, but I went in their room. And now their house was built, like their house was surrounded by a hickory nut grove. Huge, 60-foot tall, 80-foot tall, 100-foot tall trees. I mean, big trees. Me, you, and a couple others might could reach around these hundreds-of-year-old trees.
Wow.
It's beautiful. And they had built, my papa built the house for my grandma, you know, like probably in the 40s or 50s. And the windows were high, you know, big high windows. And I went in to the bedroom, tired, because I've been, you know, running all day too. And I just flopped back on the bed. And I didn't do it looking out, or I didn't do it with my head at where the window was. I put my head at the foot. So I'm kind of looking out the window.
Right.
And it was the fall. The sun was starting to go down. It was, you know, I mean, it was still like maybe 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And shadows were coming through those big windows, and the bed was warm. And I just, you know, snuggled up and lay down on the bed. And I looked out the window, and I looked up into the tree. And I'm like, what is that? And I lay there for a second, and I'm like, there's something in that tree. What is in that tree?
So was it a light you saw, or?
It was silver, and it was big, and it covered the whole. It was like it was sitting right in the nested in the top of that tree. And I guess it really wasn't touching the branches, but it was like right. Yeah, it looked like it was, yeah. And so I got up and I went to the window, and I'm standing there looking at it. And the only reason that I knew what I was looking at, now you got to remember this. Back then, we got 3 TV channels.
Right.
ABC, CBS, and NBC, and maybe a
PBS channel or UAP.
Yeah, PBS, public broadcast, something like that. Well, basically, we got 3 channels.
Yep.
There was nothing on TV about UFOs or aliens or spaceships. I mean, they had the whole War of the Worlds things back before I was even born, but there was no shows. There was no shows. And the only reason it just hit me that I knew what I was looking at was, believe it or not, I know this sounds crazy, but it was from the Roadrunner, Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner show with Marvin the Martian. They would have those little sections, you know, the little cartoon would come on with Marvin the Martian.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, it's a flying saucer. Because that's all I knew to call it too. Right. I didn't know to call it anything other than a flying saucer. But it was so profound when it hit me, and I knew what it was. And I went tearing down the hallway. And as I passed the living room door, I'm hollering to my grandmother. I'm like, come here, hurry, Grandma, you got to see this, you got to see this. And she's like, what? You know, I think just, you know, dozing.
Right.
And now it was the fall of the year, and hickory nut trees are kind of weird. One year you'll have a lot of nuts, and the next you won't. And this was a year that there was a lot of nuts, and I was barefooted. But I wanted out from underneath the trees. I wanted to go out into the garden so I could stand back and look up. I didn't want to look up under the tree at it. I wanted to, you know, stand back and see it.
You wanted to see it.
Yeah. And we had those big old pink and gray gravels in the driveway, you know. Hurt my feet, and I ran across as fast as I could out to the garden. Well, by this time, my grandmother, you know, she got to the back door, and I'm standing there looking at this thing, and it is like, it's big, I don't know, probably, I don't know, I'm going to say 60 to 80 feet across.
Wow.
And the perfect dome, silver, perfect, with a roll. It did have a row of lights around. Now, this is broad daylight. This is not dark. This is not sunset. This is broad daylight.
Wow. Okay.
And I'm just standing there looking at it in amazement. And I'm fixed on it, and I hear the screen door. It's like all grandparents' squeaky screen door, you know.
Yeah.
And she hollers at me, "Star, what's the matter? What's going on? What's the matter?" And I didn't say anything to her. I didn't say anything. I'm just standing there looking at it. But I heard her hollering. And now, okay, I was a really brave kid. Wasn't scared of nothing. Wasn't scared of the dark. Didn't like snakes, but other than that. Or praying mantises. Snakes and praying mantises, everything else I was okay.
Wow.
I wasn't skittish. I wasn't a skittish girl. I didn't get scared. And I'm standing there looking at it, and all of a sudden, and this so hard to comprehend. And I didn't know what it was at the time. Now, I guess it was mental telepathy, but I thought there was a man standing beside me, right beside me. And it was a man's voice. And it wasn't gruff or even stern. It was just real matter-of-factly what he said. And he said, I think it was like 6 words. He said, "You're not supposed to see this." Just matter-of-factly.
Really?
You're not supposed. Yeah. And the fear that came over me was like, because I'm looking and there's nobody standing beside me, but I'm hearing a man standing beside me saying this to me. And I've never been so scared in my life. It was my hair stood up on my arms. It was like I was literally terrified. And my grandma by now has hollered yet again. And I stopped for a second and I looked at her. And then I looked back and it rose straight up and just went.
And she didn't see it?
No, from her angle, from where she was standing, she didn't see it.
Wow.
So here's the other crazy part. The minute it left, the absolute minute it left, it was just like, boom. I wasn't scared anymore. So I take off chasing it. And I take off across the yard to the other side to where in the direction that it went. I climbed through a barbed wire fence that we had. We always just had a few cattle, not very many, 5 or 6, And I ran out into the pasture. And I'm scanning the skies. I'm just looking, but I knew in my heart it was gone because it went too fast. It's gone. And my grandmother, of course, she's still standing at the back door, And so I collected myself and climbed back through the fence and went to her. But by the time I get there, I'm just, I'm huffing and I'm puffing. I'm like, you're not going to believe me. You're not going to believe me. You're not going to believe me. I kept saying that over and over. And now my grandmother, she was the salt of the earth. I'm telling you, don't tell a lie. If it's something you don't want told and it's a lie, it's liable to get told anyway.
Sure.
I mean, grandma just believed in telling the truth. Whatever, didn't matter what it was, you told the truth. And you better, because if you didn't, it would be a way lot worse than if you had told the truth in the first place.
Yep.
So, but anyways, she wouldn't lie about anything for anybody. And so she's saying, calm down, catch your breath, calm down. And I said, Grandma, you're not going to believe me. And she put her hands on my shoulders. And, just put her hands on my shoulders. And she looked me dead in the face and she said, we're calm. We're calm. She said, yes, honey, I believe you. I've seen them too. And I was just like, okay.
Nobody told me this.
Yeah, you didn't, you never told me this. And so then, of course, I was full of questions. And, ironically, the first place I wanted to go, and I know it was because of the way I was raised, was my first questions to her was, what does the Bible say about it? What does the Bible say? And she said, well, I'm not sure, but we'll do some looking and we'll see what we can find.
Right.
I'm like, okay. And so she gets me calmed down and I basically left it up to her because I'm still kind of freaked out,
Well, yeah, you're 12 and you just saw an alien spacecraft.
Yeah.
For the first time, you didn't even know what it was.
Right.
Marvin the Martian, so.
Yeah, so she looked, and she came back. I'd asked her, well, so what did you see? What did you find out? And she said the only thing that she could find was a place in the Bible that said, there are stranger things in heaven than on earth.
Wow.
And she left it at that.
That's pretty deep. If you think really.
Yeah, she left it at that. And me personally, I couldn't do that. So I kind of made a mistake.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So there was, I did have a really nice set of encyclopedias. I went through the encyclopedias.
Yeah, because there was no internet back then.
Right.
Well, we had to look something up. For people that are watching this that don't know what an encyclopedia is, it was a book that started with A, and then you had a whole series of books that went all the way to Z.
Big, thick books. With
every bit of information that if you were to Google now, you could find. But whatever information was out there was in these encyclopedias. So, sorry, that's my little education for everybody. That
well, there was some stuff in there about the moon launch, and plans of this and plans of that. There was stuff like that, but they didn't talk about aliens. No, they weren't going to talk about that. Okay, so I couldn't find anything at home, and trust me, I spent a couple weeks pouring through that stuff. So, in my school, the policy in my homeroom was that when you got all your homework done and you got finished with everything, you could go to the library if you wanted to.
Okay.
So I would rush and get my homework done, and I would head to the library. And one day, my teacher is so funny. Looking back on it, it was funny. She came to me and she said, Star, what are you looking for? Because I know you're looking for something. Because you're up here, as soon as you get your homework done, you're up here. What is it because I go in the card catalog, and I'll be looking and I'll tell them what a card catalog is.
No, I hated the card catalog.
I hated it too. I did. But it was the only way you could figure out where you wanted to find what you wanted, And I'm sure people still know what that is.
They can Google it if they want to know what a card catalog is.
Yeah. So anyways, she really pressed me on it. And I'm 12. And I know what I've seen. And I'm strong in my convictions. Right. So I told her, I told her. And I came home that day. I got off the bus. I came home. I went in the back door in the kitchen, And my grandmother's like, honey, I need to talk to you. I'm like, okay, what did I do? She said, you didn't do anything. No, you're fine. But I just want to tell you something. I said, okay. She said, here, sit down, let's just talk. She said, look, I know they're real, and you know they're real, but you just can't go around telling people because people won't believe you, and then they'll think you're crazy. And I said, what do you mean? She said, well, your teacher called me. I was like, oh, my God. Now, can you imagine back then a teacher calling home to say, this child is at school saying she's seen aliens or UFOs. It would probably be worse now than it was back then because back then, just sweep it under the rug, Now they'd have DHS trying to take me away from them or something,
Yep.
But that I learned the lesson in that, to just chill out, be careful who you mentioned it to, because there again, if they didn't see it for themselves, chances are they weren't going to believe you.
Right. Well, and that's part of this show is we're not here to judge people. We don't want to. We're not here to make a decision whether you did see it or not. That's, we just want to share the stories, and people, they can have their own opinions about it.
Yeah, I have lots of friends that believe me.
Because
over the years,
I personally believe that you have to be ignorant to think that we are the only things in this entire universe. There's nothing else out there but us.
Well, anybody that does their homework, I mean, come on. You've got an internet. It's there. There is archives from government everywhere. They've uncovered this stuff for years. So that's my opinion.
Right.
I think they should do more digging.
Yeah, I agree. So at 12, you saw this. Have you ever seen it again?
Yeah.
Have you seen pictures of that
particular one?
Yeah, because there's people that talk about this all the time. There's people that put pictures on the internet, stuff like that. Have you ever gone on the internet or Facebook or something and you saw it and you went, "Oh my gosh, that's
it." Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Really, that's amazing.
Oh yeah.
So you have seen it again.
I was to the point that I would know before they were coming. Like I could tell you a day or two before I was going to witness them again, that they were going to be there.
Really?
Yeah.
Are they, and I don't want to say contact, but are they letting you know they're coming, or is it something that you just have a feeling?
I just know.
Like an intuition or
I don't know how. I just knew.
And so you get this feeling that they're coming, and then what? You go outside and you wait for it to come, or
you just look, and usually they're and back in the day, you know what I thought? I thought there was always 3 or 6 that would come at the same time.
Right.
What I thought, but now I realize that it was just the lights, the way the lights were positioned on the bottom. If there was 2 ships, you would think there was 6.
Right.
And they would start out high up, and there was a different color to them. You know how some planets almost have a rainbow effect when you're looking at them from a distance, and you're like, what is that? Theirs is, I can't describe it, but it's just really white, and sometimes it has a tumbling effect.
Was there any noise? Did you hear anything? Or
one time I have actually heard something, and this was with other people as witnesses, as present, and this was in, I guess, 1989, I want to say. My ex-husband was there, a girlfriend of mine, her 2 kids. My son was there. And
it was called 98.
98?
I wasn't born yet.
Yeah, 98, not 89.
Okay.
And anyway, they came together this time. And I never saw this happen before. And this was kind of, it was wild. It was wild. Like I'm still at this point thinking there's 3 over here and there's a great big one right here. But the lights from this one literally joined into that one, and it just exploded in this bright, brilliant light. And when it took off, it made a sonic boom.
Really? So were you in the same area? Or
yeah. I was about 30 miles
from where you saw the one in 73.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was in 98, was that the next time you saw that from 73, or did you see it before 98?
I had saw it before. Actually, I used to live in Maryville, Tennessee.
Okay.
Merle. And there, Chilhowie Mountain was behind our house. And you could, our house sat just below. A friend of mine's house was up on top of a hill. Mine was down below. And, she'd seen weird things, and her husband had seen weird things. And we had made a kind of a pact that if anybody seen it, they would call the other one so we could come and see.
Right.
And as soon as I walked through the front door, my phone was ringing. And it was my girlfriend's husband. And he said, "You need to come up here. You need to come up here and look at this." And I had never experienced quite anything like this before either. But his patio on the back of his house, you could see straight down the mountain range. You could see straight down it. And you know what a knob is, right? The knobs, not really mountains, but more like knobs.
Right.
Well, it was a row of knobs in front of the mountain. And as clear as day, it looked like glitter. The only way I know how to explain it is it looked like glitter was coming out of the center of the bottom going into the mountain. Me and him talked about it. It was hard to tell if it was the glitter was coming up of the mountain or out of the hill. Yeah, or going in, coming out or going in. You really couldn't tell. You couldn't tell the difference. And
so what do you think that was?
I think they were mining.
So my theory is they were either picking up somebody or dropping off somebody, or they were putting something into the ground to plant.
Taking it out or putting it in.
And that's my theory. That's
exactly what we thought.
If anybody else has an opinion, well, you're entitled to your opinion, but that's my opinion.
But see now, and also the funny thing about this is, I was up there for quite some time. And, I hadn't needed to go get the kids into bed and take care of stuff because we had just come in, and it was probably 8:00. And I sat there with him for a while and watched this until it was like, okay. But for some reason, as I was walking back down the road to my house, and it wasn't but about, 300 or 400 feet back down, I got mad. I just got angry. And I was like, because by this point I had seen them. I had known this stuff was going on. And I was like, why me? I don't want to be here. I really don't want to be involved with this. And I got mad. And I'm surprised my neighbors didn't call the law on me because I kind of had a little screaming meltdown in the backyard and a few choice words to them.
Right.
And I was really angry. My face was red. I know it was. I was so mad. Why do you do this to me? And I remember I said, if you think you're so big and bad, just come on. I'm right here. Come here, And nobody did, of course, but I turned to go into the house. And I got to the side of my house. And the hair stood up on my whole body. Literally, my hair kind of went like this. And I looked straight up. And it was like right on top of me. That was the second scariest I've ever been. Because I thought, holy boy, you screwed up now. I thought it was the end of the world. I did. In my mind, you're done. You opened your big mouth and you're done.
So in 73, they spoke to you, okay?
Yeah.
In your mind, and told you you're not supposed to be seeing this. And they haven't spoke to you. They didn't speak to you that night, though, right?
No, they didn't speak to me. They just let me know that I better not be. I guess
again.
I'm like, oh my God, I pissed them off. I really did. This is what happened, and they let me know real quick that if they wanted to do something, they could. And I was just that was my second time to ever be that terrified. And I went running in the house, trying to drag my son's father outside. And he's like, oh, what? And I'm like, just come out here. And of course, though, by the time he got out there, they were gone. And that's always the way it goes.
Yep.
Most of the time.
So people you tell these stories to, do the majority of them, do they believe you?
Yeah.
Good.
I think so. I mean, they know I'm, sane.
It's not like you're writing a book or you're making money off this. You didn't.
No, never have.
So you're just telling your story, and that's, to me, that's pretty amazing. So 98, we got 73, and then 98. I wonder why the big difference in how long it took for them to come back again. And have you seen them since 98? Have you seen the spaceship since 98?
No. And I have a theory about that.
Okay, what's your theory on that?
They're pretty much done with abducting humans.
You think they've learned everything they need to learn about us?
Yeah, I do. I think they pretty much have learned whatever they needed to learn. And see, I always got the feeling, though, and in all of the research that I did, that they're kind of fascinated with us because we have feelings they don't have.
Right.
We can do things that they can't do. We have all these myriad of emotions that they just don't really have. And I think they were trying to figure that out. And of course, I think, it's my theory that our government knew they were here a long time ago. They kind of cut a deal with them.
Well, I believe so too, because how did our technology advance so fast? Yeah. If you look at
there was an exchange that went on. Like we'll give we'll allow you to do these abductions and things in, return for all this technology.
Yep. Because
I think they don't need that anymore. I mean, because we learned so much. We have our own Space Force now.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, we've learned so much.
So I think they kind of stopped for people. I mean, I know I was scared at first, for like my son, for example, when he was little. I was fearful. You don't want any of this to happen to your children,
Right.
So
Right.
you become fearful. But then as time went on, I mean, I always kept close tabs and asked questions, and there was never nothing. So, yeah, I think they got what they needed.
Right. Why do you think they contacted you? Like in 73, you were 12. And they told you that you shouldn't be seeing this, but then.
After my grandmother said, I asked her. So, where did you see them? And she told me the story that her and her neighbor, and back in the 60s, your closest neighbor might live a quarter mile up the road.
Right.
Your farm connected to their farm. And she said that one fall, they were sitting on her neighbor's front porch, breaking green beans, to can. And I know that, and I always remember what she said because I thought it was kind of ironic, really. And as a kid, I just didn't make sense of it. It didn't make a lot of sense to me.
Right.
And I said, well, did you see them? What did you see? What did they look like? What were they doing? And she said, well, they were smaller than the big one that you've seen here at the house. She said, and it was like they were playing cat and mouse with each other in the field.
So you actually
been around, but I think they were in families.
You actually saw one? You actually saw an alien from the spaceship, or just the spaceship is what you're talking about?
In 73?
Yeah.
No, I just saw the ship in 73 when the guy talked to me, the voice.
Okay.
Yeah.
But your grandmother actually saw them, right? Playing in the fields?
She saw the ships zipping back and forth.
Oh, okay.
They were smaller ships and they were zipping back and forth.
Kind of like the movie Close Encounters?
Sort of, kind of.
They had little ships that were going back and forth. Okay.
Or even, what it reminds me of today to think about it?
What's that?
Is the crop circles in England.
Yes.
How they just the balls of light go through the fields and make things.
That makes sense.
In my mind now, remembering what she said and how she said it, I think that's more like kind of like what she was talking about.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So,
And I know that I did have another family member that she told me about. Actually, there was 4 of them, 4 boys. Because I had asked her in the time back when we were looking in the Bible, trying to see what we could find out. I said, well, you've seen them? You told me you've seen them. Has anybody else in the family seen them? My oldest brother, who's dead now, and his cousins. There was 3 of them. And this field that I used to ride on a motorcycle in back behind the house, beyond that was woods and a creek.
right.
And the boys would go down there and go fishing and this and that. And she said that she was sitting at the kitchen table one afternoon late, about to get dark. And that then she said there's big old boys, big strapping teenage, 17, 18-year-old big boys.
Farm boys. Yeah.
Yeah, farm boys. And she said they like to broke each other's neck trying to get through that screen door. They were fighting to get in the house and would never, any of them, ever say anything other than it came out of the water. And that's all she would say. That's all that they ever told her. One of them, there's only one of them that would even say that. It came out of the water. It could have been a ship. It could have been a creature. I don't know what it was.
Right.
But I do firmly believe they follow families for, I don't know if it's a genetic thing, or what, but
Maybe. I mean, if you think about it, maybe they found a certain family that they connected with, and then they just kind of want to see what the evolution of that family turns out to be. I have no idea because I've never seen one. I look all the time. We moved out to the country here in Tennessee so that we could, have a little farm and everything else. But I just want to see.
You can. You can.
I want to.
You can. You just have to call them. I used to do it. You can do it.
Oh.
Anybody, I'll tell this to anybody who says they always want to see one of them. You're just not asking the right question. You just need to go out and be calm and sit there and say, I really want to know, and it works.
Well, I might have to try that.
You might have to try that.
I definitely want to see one. So, you have other stories for us?
Well, the thing about this is it seems like that once your mind is open to this stuff,
right,
that you're like a magnet to it. For some reason, I guess your brain, well, if you can see that, what I saw and the experiences that I went through, then you're more open to other things because there's more to this world than people imagine.
Oh, yeah, sure.
There's levels, I think. And I've lived in haunted houses. I've seen ghosts.
Bigfoot?
Go ahead.
Is there a Bigfoot?
Yeah.
I love Bigfoot since I was a kid. Oh, my God. Since I was like 5 years old. I used to go to the library. I'd read every book about Bigfoot. Look at all the pictures and Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster, UFOs. That was my entire shelter.
Well, my 3 things is basically, and I can walk in a house and tell you
If it's haunted?
If it's haunted. Yeah.
See, and I have a hard time with that. My wife will tell you that, she believes that. My daughter-in-law, they watch those ghost things, and I have a hard time with ghosts because I'm like, really? I watch some of those shows and I go, you got to be kidding me. There's no way that is real. Dude, you just said that.
It's real. Yeah, that's real too. I mean, I just think there's levels and layers to our universe and our surroundings that people go la-di-da-di-da-di-da-di-da. Let's get up and go to work. Let's go to, get a cappuccino for breakfast and go to McDonald's for lunch. And we'll, oh God, it's almost 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. It's time to go home, hit the road, go home, do your stuff. The world is too noisy.
Right.
The world needs to just listen calm down and listen.
That's great.
So much more.
Just calm down and listen. Yep, that's great advice. I love that.
Also, it's part of a UFO story that is incredible. I think we probably need to save this for another time.
Okay, yeah, because I'm going to have you, if you don't mind.
You asked me, was there another time? And I forgot. But yes, there was. And this was, oh my gosh, what year, son? Huh? No, it's more than that. It was before we left Irwin. Okay. We were we? Okay, so about 8 years ago.
Okay.
About 8 years ago. There was, and both me and my son experienced this.
And I know your son, so he's not.
He's not flaky.
Yeah, he's not a liar. So, from what I know of him, so
Yeah, he was. It was something that was happening, and I asked. I thought it was interesting. Do you want to go see this? And he's like, "Well, sure, let's go. You know, why not?" And we went to Asheville and had an experience, and
Really?
it was, yes, it was really good.
well, let's save that then. If you don't mind, I would love to have you back on this show
Okay.
next Saturday. Same
Sure.
time?
Sure.
Okay, great. So, yeah, I'd love to do that because I want to hear some more about this. Also, I want to ask you a question too, and you can think about this, and then we can talk about that next week as well. Do you think they're living here among us?
Yeah. And I think
I do too.
there's several many species too. I mean, the government has documented 83 different species.
So
Most people don't know that, but you can find that
It's
straight from the government.
it's not like Men in Black though, right?
There is one race that is like Men in Black.
Really?
They do that because of their skin tone.
Wow.
They're very light and they burn easy and they camouflage.
Well, yeah, we'll definitely have to talk.
And there's some of them devils you don't want nothing to do with. I'll tell you that.
So could that be part of the ghost, the paranormal thing? You think?
No, I
Makes you
don't.
think so.
No, I think the ghost is totally different. I think that is somebody whose spirit just didn't pass on. There's different kinds of hauntings, and there's a residual haunting, like somebody who kind of died instantly,
Okay.
and they were in a routine, and they did this routine, and they did this routine, and it was constant for them, and it's more residual.
Right.
And I guess they really don't even realize that they're gone. And then there's some vengeful ones, and there's some that is evil and turns to the dark side and, does evil things. I mean, I have a friend who lives very near you who has had some very bad experiences and has
Really?
had ghost hunters to try to clean her house and get them out and stuff. And
Do you think she'd be willing to come on the show and talk about it? Or?
I doubt it, and I'll tell you why. Because she was on one of those paranormal shows,
Mm-hmm.
and they totally, it was.
Made it look like it.
They just took it in a whole nother direction
And
than
that's
what
why
it was.
That's why I don't like those shows.
Yeah, no, it was terrible. She wished she had never done it. She wished she'd never done it.
And that's
Because they didn't let her tell the truth. They put a spin on it
Yep.
for television, and they spun it out of control into something totally different. And her house is, is as haunted as it gets. And they just spun it out of control.
We don't do that on this show. Like I said, this show is totally to hear people's stories. I don't edit your story. Like when I put this on the podcast, I'm not editing anything. I'm going to add some music at the beginning and add some music at the end, and that's it. Your entire story that you told tonight and next weekend will all be on there. So
Cool.
that's how I want it. I want this to be real. I don't want it to be some Hollywood thing that everybody twisted into. It is what it is. And people can listen to it if they want, and they can believe it if they want, and they can not believe it if they don't want. So, but I just want to get the stories out there. So
Cool. All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I mean, I guess really it's kind of good for your psyche after years. I mean, I do tell it to people, but I've often thought, could I help anybody by this? You know,
Sure.
could you, help people by letting them listen and say, well, something like that happened to me too, but I didn't want to say anything.
Yep. And just let them know they're not alone in something
Mhm.
like this. So, and this is great. Anybody that's watching this that has a story or anything, you can email me at edsullivanexperience@gmail.com. You can contact me through Facebook, through YouTube, subscribe, and get a hold of me if you want to share your story. If you have comments about tonight's show, you can let me know. Again, Star, I want to thank you so much for being on this show.
You're welcome.
Can't wait to have you again next weekend. We're also going to have somebody else that Kelly Timms. He lived next to a graveyard, and he had an experience with, I guess, a revolutionary soldier. So that's all he told me. So I don't know. So we're going to hear some more about that. So excuse me. So again, I appreciate you coming out. Thank you everybody for watching the Ed Sullivan Experience. We're going to do this again next Saturday, and we'll have Star on here again and some other people. And you have a great night.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.